"You have got to be kidding me," I said, my 4 eyes blinking in rapid succession as I stared at the holographic display. "The humans did what?" My superior, Fleet Commander Zorix Talavera, clicked her mandibles together in what our species considers a shrug. "They survived," Observer Pelnar. "Not only survived but apparently turned Nova 6 into this." The images floating before us showed lush valleys of vegetation, sprawling settlements, and atmospheric readings that should have been impossible. Nova 6 had been a cosmic joke, a barren rock of toxic soil and radiation levels that would kill most sentient species within days. We had designated it as Disposal Site D-435, a fancy name for place we send our criminals and undesirables to die. Humans had been relatively new to the galactic conglomerate when the decision was made. Their homeworld, Earth, was overpopulated and resource depleted. They'd begged for a colony world. We'd given them Nova 6. It wasn't personal, just practical. The conglomerate had calculated they'd all be dead within a standard cycle, solving the human problem without technically violating any non-aggression treaties. That was 15 cycles ago. "So you are telling me," I said slowly, "that the primitive apes we sentenced to death have transformed a toxic wasteland into a garden?" "That's an oversimplification, Observer Pelnar, but essentially correct." Zorix manipulated the display to show a human settlement. "We have been monitoring from orbit. They have established 16 major population centers. Current population estimate is approximately 3 million. I nearly choked on my nutrient supplement. 3 million? That's impossible. We sent 50,000. 52,614 to be precise, Zorix corrected. They breed quickly. Not that quickly, I muttered. My mind raced through calculations. Even with their abbreviated gestation period and assuming optimal conditions, which Nova 6 absolutely was not. Observer Pelnar, Zorix interrupted, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "The Council is concerned." Of course they were. The Galactic Conglomerate Council had effectively sentenced a species to slow extinction. If word got out that not only had humans survived but thrived on what should have been their graveyard, it would be politically catastrophic. "What does the Council want from me?" I asked, already dreading the answer. "You are our foremost xenoanthropologist specializing in human behavior. The Council requires a first-hand assessment of the situation." Zorix tapped a sequence on her console. "You leave in 6 hours. "Wait, what? You are sending me down there?" "To Nova 6. My voice embarrassingly reached a pitch I hadn't hit since my juvenile molting. "Among the humans?" "Is there a problem, Observer?" Zorix's tone made it clear there better not be. I swallowed hard. "No, Commander. No problem at all." The descent to Nova 6's surface gave me plenty of time to contemplate my impending doom. My shuttle was disguised as a trading vessel, with my appearance modified to resemble a human merchant. The genetic resequencing was uncomfortable but temporary. My blue skin had been altered to their pinkish beige, my forearms reduced to 2 through binding technology, and a synthetic hairpiece attached to my cranial dome. I looked hideous. Approaching Nova 6 atmosphere, the ship's AI announced. Atmospheric composition, 23% oxygen, 76% nitrogen, 1% trace gases. Temperature at landing zone, 294.15 Kelvin. Being conditions suitable for Xelarian physiology. That couldn't be right. Nova 6's atmosphere had been primarily methane and carbon dioxide when we dumped the humans here. Oxygen levels had been negligible. "Confirm atmospheric readings," I ordered. "Readings confirmed," the AI responded. "Analysis indicates extensive terraforming has occurred." Terraforming? Impossible. Humans didn't possess terraforming technology. Even the conglomerate's most advanced worlds required centuries for planetary engineering of this magnitude. The shuttle broke through the cloud layer, and I pressed against the viewport. Below me stretched a landscape that bore no resemblance to the barren wasteland I'd studied in the mission briefings. Rolling hills covered in vegetation, lakes of clear blue water, and spreading across a valley floor, a city. Great progenitors, I whispered. The settlement was primitive by conglomerate standards, but impressive for a species supposedly struggling to survive. Solar collection arrays glinted in the sunlight. Agricultural fields created patchwork patterns around the city perimeter, and throughout it all, humans moved about like busy insects. The shuttle landed at a designated port on the outskirts of the city. I took a deep breath, checked my translator implant, and reminded myself that I was Observer Pelnar, respected xenoanthropologist, not some frightened juvenile on their first off-world mission. You can do this, I told my reflection in the shuttle's mirror. My human disguise stared back, unconvinced. The airlock hissed open, and I stepped onto the surface of Novus 6. The first thing that struck me was the smell. Rich, complex, alive. Nothing like the sterile, processed air of conglomerate habitats. The second thing was the gravity, slightly heavier than I was accustomed to, but manageable. The third thing was the human approaching me with a wide facial expression that my training identified as a smile. "Welcome to New Terra," she said, extending a hand. "I'm Governor Amara Jensen. You must be our trader from Proxima Station." I awkwardly extended my hand for the customary greeting ritual, trying not to flinch when our skin made contact. "Yes, Philip. Philip Nar. Thank you for the welcome." "First time on New Terra?" she asked, leading me toward a ground transport vehicle. "Is it that obvious?" I managed, trying to match her casual tone. She laughed. "Everyone looks a bit overwhelmed their first time. Don't worry, you will adjust. We are pretty proud of what we have built here." "It's impressive," I admitted, genuinely meaning it. I had heard Novus 6 was challenging. Something flashed in her eyes, a momentary hardness before the smile returned. "Oh, it was. Still is in some regions. The first generation paid a terrible price. But that's ancient history now." "Ancient history?" 15 cycles was nothing in conglomerate timeframes. These humans operated on an entirely different temporal perspective. The ground vehicle moved through the settlement, which Governor Jensen informed me was called Hope City. Ironic name for a place where they'd been sent to die. "Our main exports are rare earth minerals, agricultural products, and medicinal compounds," she explained as we drove. "We are particularly known for our radiation-resistant grain varieties and anti-cancer medications." I nearly gave myself away with a startled click. "You developed those here?" "Necessity is the mother of invention," she said with another smile, though this one didn't reach her eyes. "When 30% of your population is dying from radiation poisoning, you get creative. Humans had developed advanced medications and radiation-resistant crops in just 15 cycles, without conglomerate technology or assistance. My research had severely underestimated their adaptability." "Here we are," Governor Jensen announced as the vehicle stopped before a modest building. "Your quarters during your stay. There's a welcome dinner tonight at the community hall. Trading discussions begin tomorrow." "Thank you for your hospitality," I said, trying to mimic human formality. "Mr. Nar," she said as I exited the vehicle, "a word of advice? Don't wander into the Western District without an escort. Some of our older residents still harbor resentment toward off-worlders." With that cheerful warning, she departed, leaving me standing before my temporary residence with the distinct feeling I was in much deeper trouble than the council realized. The welcome dinner was an anthropological goldmine and a personal nightmare. Humans everywhere talking, laughing, consuming food with their mouths, a practice I found revolting but had to mimic. My modified digestive system could process their food, but the experience was deeply unpleasant. "First time off Proxima, huh?" A large male human dropped into the seat beside me, offering another container of fermented grain liquid. "Beer?" "No, thank you," I declined. "And yes, first visit to New Terra." "Brave man," he said, consuming his own beer with alarming speed. "Name's Jackson Reed, security chief." "Philip Nar," I responded, noting the significance of meeting another leadership figure. "Trading representative." "Right," he said, drawing out the word in a way my translator couldn't quite interpret. So what are you really trading for, Mr. Nar from Proxima? Because we don't get many independent merchants willing to brave the journey here. My pulse quickened. Standard goods, technology components, luxury items. Cut the crap, Reed interrupted, his voice dropping. Proxima Station doesn't trade with outer colonies. It's a conglomerate monitoring post. I froze, calculating my options. Denial seemed futile. You seem well informed, Chief Reed. We have been monitoring your monitoring, he said with a grin that displayed too many teeth. Did you really think we wouldn't notice the satellites? The probes? You guys aren't as subtle as you think. This was bad. Very bad. I'm not sure what you are implying. Oh, I'm not implying anything, Reed said, leaning closer. I'm stating facts. You are not a traitor. Proxima doesn't send traitors, which means you are something else. Spy? Observer? Advanced scout for whatever the conglomerate plans next. I assure you. Don't bother, he waved a hand dismissively. Governor knows too. Everyone at this table knows. We are just curious why they sent you now, after all this time. I looked around the table, suddenly aware that several humans were watching our interaction while pretending not to. If you knew why the charade, why not just detain me at arrival? Reed laughed, a booming sound that drew more attention. But detain you? What for? You are not a threat, just a curious visitor. Besides, New Terra welcomes all, even those who condemned us to die here. The bluntness of his statement left me speechless. These humans knew exactly who I represented, yet had welcomed me into their settlement, provided accommodations, included me in their social gathering. Why? I finally managed. Why what? Why this? I gestured around us. If you know who I am, what I represent, why treat me as a guest? Reed studied me for a long moment. Because that's who we are now, or at least who we are trying to be. He drained his beverage container. Don't mistake hospitality for forgiveness, though. Some wounds run deep. Before I could respond, Governor Jensen approached our table. I see you have met our security chief. Jackson isn't bothering you with his conspiracy theories, is he? Just making small talk. Governor, Reed replied with exaggerated innocence. Amen, she responded, clearly unconvinced. Mr. Nar, would you join me? There's someone I'd like you to meet. I followed Governor Jensen through the crowded hall to a quieter area where an elderly human sat alone. His skin was mottled with radiation scarring, and one arm appeared to be a crude prosthetic. Mr. Nar, this is Dr. Elias Parker, one of our original settlers and the father of New Terran medicine. The old human looked up at me with eyes that seemed to see straight through my disguise. So, he said, his voice rasping. The conglomerate finally remembered us. Dr. Parker, Jensen began, but he waved her off. It's fine, Amara. I have been waiting 15 years for this conversation. He gestured to a chair opposite him. Sit, observer. We have much to discuss. As I sank into the chair, I realized with growing dread that my mission had been compromised before it even began. And that was only the first of many revelations Nova 6 had in store for me. Tell me, observer, Dr. Parker said, leaning forward with intensity burning in his aged eyes. Did they send you to learn our secrets, or to finish what they started? I swallowed hard, suddenly understanding why Zorix had seemed so concerned. The humans of Nova 6 weren't just survivors. They were something entirely new. I'm not here to finish anything, I stammered, Dr. Parker's piercing gaze making my disguise feel paper-thin. My mission is observational only. The elderly human nodded slowly. So they want to know how we survived, how we transformed their death sentence into this. He gestured vaguely toward the window where Hope City sprawled beneath a surprisingly beautiful sunset. Governor Jensen sat beside us, her earlier friendly demeanor replaced with something colder, more calculating. The real question, Mr. Nar, or whatever your actual name, is what happens after your observation. When you report back that we have not only survived but thrived, it was a good question, one I didn't have an answer for. I don't know, I admitted. Parker laughed, a harsh sound that ended in a wheezing cough. Honesty? From a conglomerate representative? Now I have seen everything. Perhaps we should show him, Jensen suggested, exchanging a meaningful look with Parker. The old doctor raised an eyebrow. Everything? He's going to find out one way or another, she replied. Better on our terms. Parker studied me for a long moment before nodding. Tomorrow morning. Bring him to the Genesis labs. He stood shakily, his prosthetic arm whirring with primitive servos. Rest well, observer. Tomorrow will expand your understanding of what humans are capable of. With that cryptic statement, he shuffled away, leaving me alone with Governor Jensen. Your disguise isn't bad, she said conversationally, but your posture gives you away. Solarians always stand too straight, like you have got rods instead of spines. I abandoned the pretense. How long have you known? Since before you landed, she shrugged. We have gotten quite good at spotting conglomerate surveillance, 15 years of practice. Yet you let me land, welcomed me into your settlement. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. As Jackson said, hospitality isn't forgiveness. But it is our way now, she stood. 7 hours from now, a transport will collect you. I suggest you spend the night considering very carefully what you will report back to your superiors. After she left, I returned to my assigned quarters, mind racing. Everything about this mission had gone sideways. The humans knew who I was. They had been monitoring conglomerate surveillance. They had built a thriving civilization on a planet that should have killed them. And tomorrow, apparently, they planned to reveal how. Sleep evaded me entirely. Dawn broke with a riot of colors I hadn't expected from Nova 6's atmosphere. The transport arrived precisely when Jensen had said it would, piloted by a young human female who introduced herself as Talia Parker. You are related to the doctor? I asked as we lifted off. His granddaughter, she confirmed, navigating the vehicle with casual expertise. One of 17 grandchildren, actually. 17? The number seemed excessive even by human reproductive standards. But she laughed. Grandpa Eli believes in leaving a legacy. Says every child born on New Terra is a middle finger to the conglomerate. I winced at her bluntness but couldn't argue the sentiment. We flew beyond Hope City's boundaries, over stretches of cultivated land that gradually gave way to something unexpected, massive greenhouse structures extending to the horizon. These Phase 1 terraforming, Talia explained, noting my interest, atmospheric processors disguised as agricultural facilities. The conglomerate would have noticed if we'd built traditional terraformers, so we had to get creative. You are terraforming the planet? I couldn't keep the shock from my voice. How? You didn't have the technology. We didn't, she agreed, banking the transport toward a mountain range. So we made it. The implications staggered me. Terraforming technology was closely guarded by the conglomerate's most advanced civilizations. Humans had been pre-FTL when we'd first encountered them, barely able to maintain their own crumbling biosphere. This is impossible, I muttered. That's what your people were counting on, Talia replied. Our impossibility was your convenient solution to the human problem. Too bad for you we don't accept impossibility as an answer. We descended toward what appeared to be a natural cave entrance in the mountainside. As we got closer, I realized it was an artificial structure designed to blend with the landscape. Clever camouflage against orbital surveillance. The transport settled onto a landing pad, and Talia led me through a series of security checkpoints. Human guards watched me with expressions ranging from curiosity to undisguised hostility. Don't mind them, Talia said, as we passed a particularly intimidating group. They are firstborn children of the original settlers. They remember what the early years were like. How bad was it? I asked quietly. She stopped walking and turned to face me. 40% of the original colonists died in the first year. Radiation poisoning, atmospheric toxicity, starvation. Children were born with mutations that our limited medical facilities couldn't address. My mother was one of them. She died giving birth to me. I had no response that wouldn't sound hollow. Your people knew exactly what would happen when they sent us here, she continued. You expected a 100% mortality rate. The fact that you are standing here having this conversation means we beat odds your conglomerate calculated to 20 decimal places. She resumed walking. That's what terrifies them, isn't it? Not just that we survived, but that you were wrong. We entered a vast chamber carved into the mountain, where Dr. Parker waited alongside Governor Jensen and several humans in laboratory attire. Welcome to Genesis Labs, Observer Parker said, gesturing around the cavernous space filled with equipment I didn't recognize, in the heart of humanity's rebirth. What is this place? I asked, trying to make sense of the technology surrounding us. But it wasn't conglomerate design, nor was it typical human engineering from my research. This, Parker said with unmistakable pride, is where we rewrote our destiny. Quite literally. He led me to a central workstation where a holographic display showed a spiraling pattern I recognized as human genetic code. When the conglomerate dumped us here, they assumed Novus 6 would kill us before we could adapt, Parker explained. A reasonable assumption, given that the radiation levels alone should have sterilized our population within a generation. But they overlooked something fundamental about humans. We are stubborn as hell, offered a female scientist nearby. Parker smiled. That too, Dr. Kapoor. But more importantly, we are problem solvers, and we had among our criminal population some of Earth's most brilliant minds. Criminal population? I questioned. Governor Jensen raised an eyebrow. You didn't think we were actually criminals, did you? Earth's government selected us because we were politically inconvenient. Scientists who asked dangerous questions. Engineers who built technologies that threatened corporate interests, activists who demanded better for humanity. This was news to me. The conglomerate had dealt exclusively with Earth's united governance. They had presented the Novus 6 colonists as expendable undesirables. I don't understand, I admitted. If you were Earth's best minds, why would they send you away? Because we threatened the status quo, Parker said simply. The same reason your conglomerate was happy to help dispose of us. Entities in power rarely welcome those who question them. He manipulated the genetic display, zooming in on specific sequences. We knew from day one that survival meant adaptation, not in generations, but immediately. So we turned to the one field of study that Earth and the conglomerate had severely restricted: genetic engineering. The display shifted to show comparison sequences standard human genome alongside something different. Similar, but with key modifications. You altered your own genetics? I whispered, horrified and fascinated simultaneously. We had to, Dr. Kapoor interjected. The environment was killing us faster than natural selection could work. So we accelerated the process. The first generation of treatments were crude, Parker continued. Painful. Many didn't survive, but those who did passed enhanced radiation resistance to their offspring. Each generation, we refined the process. Governor Jensen stepped forward, but genetics was just the beginning. We needed to change Novus 6 itself. She led me to another section of the laboratory where a different team worked with soil samples. The planet's soil was toxic heavy metals, radioactive compounds. No terrestrial plants could grow here. So we engineered new ones. Scientists proudly displayed a sample tiny plants with iridescent leaves. These little beauties sequester radioactive particles and convert them to stable isotopes, he explained. Plant a field of them, and within 3 growth cycles, the soil becomes arable. We seeded the entire northern continent with them, Jensen added. That was phase 2. My head was spinning. And the atmosphere? Phase 3, Parker said with a grin. Our biggest challenge and greatest triumph. We couldn't build conventional terraformers, so we engineered microorganisms instead. atmospheric bacteria that consume methane and carbon dioxide, producing oxygen as waste. Release them at strategic points around the planet. Within 5 years, they'd transformed enough of the atmosphere for us to begin limited surface operations without environment suits. The scale of what they were describing was beyond anything the conglomerate had anticipated. This wasn't just survival, it was planetary engineering on a scale that should have been impossible with their limited resources and technology. But how did you develop all this? You didn't have the facilities, the equipment. We scavenged, Talia said. The conglomerate didn't just drop us here, they abandoned equipment they deemed obsolete or too damaged to retrieve. Their trash became our treasure. And we traded, Jensen added. Not with the conglomerate, obviously, but with independent operators. There's a thriving black market beyond conglomerate space. We offered unique biological compounds in exchange for technology components. That explained the mysterious exports mentioned earlier. The humans had established an underground trade network right under the conglomerate's sensors. You have created something remarkable, I admitted, genuinely impressed. But I still don't understand why you are showing me all this. Aren't you concerned I will report it to the conglomerate? Parker, Jensen, and the others exchanged glances. That's exactly what we want you to do, Parker said finally. What? Observer, Jensen said, using my title deliberately. We are not just showing you our achievements because we are proud, though we are. We are showing you because we want the conglomerate to understand exactly what they created when they tried to eliminate us. We are not hiding anymore, Parker added. Phase 4 of our plan is ready to implement, and it involves rejoining galactic society, but on our terms. Phase 4? I asked warily. Jensen's smile turned predatory. Expansion. She led me to a final section of the laboratory where a massive display showed not just Nova 6, but the surrounding star system. The conglomerate declared this entire system worthless, that's why they used it as a dumping ground, she explained. But we have spent 15 years exploring it thoroughly. There are 17 planets in this system. 9 are potentially habitable with our terraforming methods. You are planning to colonize the entire system. I realized, the implications crashing down on me. We already have, Talia corrected. Those agricultural exports? Many go to our sister colonies. We have settlements on 3 other planets already, with 2 more in early terraforming stages. This was beyond anything the Council had feared. Humans hadn't just survived, they'd built an independent, expanding civilization right in the heart of what the conglomerate considered secure space. So, Parker said, studying my reaction, now you understand our position. You will return to your superiors with a message. The humans of the Nova system are prepared to establish diplomatic relations with the galactic conglomerate as an independent entity. And if the conglomerate refuses? I asked, already guessing the answer. Then they should consider very carefully what it means to have an enemy that can transform dead worlds into living ones, Jensen replied calmly. An enemy that adapts to any environment, any challenge. An enemy they already tried and failed to eliminate once. The threat was clear, yet delivered without heat. These weren't vengeful primitives, but calculating strategists who had transformed a death sentence into a thriving civilization. You want me to tell the Council that humans are declaring independence? I clarified. Not declaring, Parker corrected. Announcing. Our independence is a fact, not a request. What we are offering is peaceful coexistence and trade, should the conglomerate be wise enough to accept it. And if they are not? I pressed. Talia smiled. Then perhaps the next observer they send won't be treated to such a warm welcome. The return journey to my shuttle passed in contemplative silence. I had been given tours of additional facilities, manufacturing plants, education centers, research installations, all reinforcing the same message: humans had not merely survived, they had evolved into something the conglomerate had never anticipated. As we approached the landing pad where my shuttle waited, Governor Jensen placed a hand on my arm. Observer Pelnar, she said. Using my real name for the first time, I hope you understand what you have witnessed here. I believe I do, I replied. You have achieved something unprecedented. She shook her head. No, what you have witnessed is simply humanity when pushed to its limits. This, she gestured to the thriving city around us, is what happens when you corner a species that refuses to die. A warning for the conglomerate, I noted. A lesson, she corrected. One I hope they are wise enough to learn from. As my shuttle lifted off from Novus 6's surface, I watched the impossible human settlement recede beneath me. My report to the council was already forming in my mind, though I knew they wouldn't want to hear it. The conglomerate had made a catastrophic miscalculation. In attempting to solve the human problem, they had instead created something far more significant, a new power in the galaxy, born in adversity, tempered by hardship, and apparently capable of transforming dead worlds into cradles of life. They had sent humans to die on a dead planet. Instead, both the humans and the planet were now very much alive, and the galaxy would never be the same.